It's your boy, Young Dale, producer for tonight. And then I've got with me my partner in crime, my fateful sidekick, as he really likes to be called, Big Cat Ben Way.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for the sound effect. I thought I hadn't heard one of your previous. How you going, guys?
And we've got with us the man of the moment, or at least the second man of the moment, Josh Engelke, coming back in hot from his effort at the Normal Blokes GT. So, say hi, Josh.
Hey lads, how you going?
Now, Josh, you better introduce yourself because you've been on this podcast twice, but it's still no one seems to know who you are.
Yeah, I'm Josh Engelke. I'm one of the TOs for Uprising Adelaide, and I went up to Brisbane, played in the Normal Blokes GT, and did pretty well. Can't complain at all.
Can't complain at all. No, the funny thing was, so this is the third time you've been on, like I just mentioned, and when we're getting you on for the second time, it was between you and Adam Napier, and I said, we'll get Josh on this time because once Adam wins the tournament, he can come on. But you went and outperformed him, mate.
That's right.
That's right. Does that officially make? Are you so like? I'm not. He's still top. He's still higher in the ITC rankings, I assume. Yeah. But currently, you are the man out of the TO group, aren't you? You've got to be bragging hard about it.
Well, so Adam and I have travelled now for 3 events this year.
Here we go.
Went to RatCon in Ballarat. He came second. Went to Terracon in Naracoorte. He came first. Now I've gone to Brisbane and I've come second. So between the two of us, we are... and our team, the Power Fisters, we're fisting our way through some stiff competition.
The terrible two. The travelling pests. Jesus Christ. But you did really well, mate. So we've got you on. Obviously... we weren't going to pester number one on. We're going to leave that to the Normal Blokes. Have you guys listened to their podcast about the tournament review?
Yeah, it was a great recap. I had.
I know you'd say that. They were saying such nice things about you, Josh.
For me, I appreciated what they had to say. They're funny guys, man. We had a great weekend with them.
No, that was really good. So if you haven't listened to that, go listen to the Normal Blokes podcast. They do a great little one. They go over. What did he come fourth? Didn't he, or went 4-1? Okay.
He went 4-1. He came eighth.
Eighth. Okay.
I was lucky enough to play both Denise and Liam. Spoilers, but yeah, that's pretty awesome.
We won't spoil any more, but all right. I reckon we get right into it, boys. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about the tournament itself, Josh? So we know it's the Normal Blokes are running it, but it also, I'm pretty sure they teamed up with Gladiator Gaming to get it done.
Yeah, so I learned that Gladiator Gaming is just Josh McGowan. Like he's the one and only Gladiator Gaming man. It's just what he calls his terrain setup, I guess, and he normally runs all the events up there. So the boys sort of took over from him for the weekend and had a couple of close friends of the podcast as the actual TOs that the podcast boys could play. And I kind of gave Josh a run himself so he could have a bit of fun and get amongst it and play some games.
Oh, that's right on. Yeah, so you mentioned the terrain. I was having a good look at it. We obviously previewed this beforehand, and they had a lot of ruins. I don't think you're ever worried too much about getting blown off the board first turn. Did you find that with the setups they had?
Yeah, it was interesting. We haven't played because, like, we have uprising terrain, so we've just been playing on that. You know, we took that with us to Ballarat. We took that with us to Naracoorte. I'm just used to that terrain in 9th edition. So it was quite an interesting experience going to a different terrain setup for me. And I was a bit worried about it. But, yeah, it was fine. Honestly, it just felt like I was playing 8th edition again. Like, it was just ruins and a crater or a forest. And that's sort of how we had it in 8th edition before we diversified our setup. So, yeah, it was good.
Oh, we've got our first question straight towards you, Josh. You are the man of the moment. Let's see if I can get this to come up. What's better, Josh? Got any? So, how many did you take, mate? Let's spoil the lead. You went with Grey Knights.
I played Grey Knights. I took 4 Dread Knights, and on the flight home, Adam and I wrote a list together with 5 in it, and now Adam's claiming it's his list, and he's currently madly assembling 5 dreadnoughts.
Righto. Thanks for that, Adam. What else we got to go in? We've actually got a shit ton of comments. But while I'll have a look through the comments. But while we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your list, mate? Because you made this real recently. You made the jump. You were running Drukari last time we talked, and you made the jump to Grey Knights. Do you want to talk mainly a little bit why you jumped to Grey Knights, and then we'll go through the list after that.
Yeah. All right. So super quickly, I own 4 armies, 5 now with Drukari, but I own 4 armies. So I've got Tyranids, Genestealer Cult, Harlequins, and Grey Knights. This is my first army with a Codex. So I was very excited to finally get a Codex. And in between, I fell prey to some cheap Drukari models and decided that that's how I was going to keep up with the meta. And I probably need to organise actually selling those models now because fuck Drukari.
Talk to me, mate. Actually, I just made a huge order, but let me know anyway. Jump in my DMs about that, mate. But you're excited about the Grey Knights.
Yeah, and so I don't think Grey Knights are as strong in the meta as Drukari are, which, who is. But I was excited to get a Codex, and I thought it would be an interesting challenge to just move on to one of the armies I actually owned. And I thought I'd have more fun because I felt like when at the Adelaide GT that I played in with Drukari, I felt like none of the matches that I won, I would have lost with Tyranids. So I kind of felt like I jumped for no real benefit. And I went 3-2 at that event, and then unfortunately my wife went to hospital, so I had to bail on the 6th round, sadly. But it might have saved me from a 3-3, which would be very embarrassing. So it all worked out.
Thanks, honey. Right, well, why don't we dive into the list here? I'll just pull it up. Here we go.
So I've got two patrols. So Swordbearers patrol. So Swordbearers are good because they've got a psychic power that casts on a 7 that my vehicles get +1 to wound, which was amazing. I originally didn't have Swordbearers in the list because I thought it's unreliable just rolling a 7. But oh my gosh, the difference that it makes is huge. And I played one test game with it, loved it, and took it, and it was really powerful.
So how does it work? Does it target one vehicle? Is that how it works?
Yeah. No, I target a unit within 18 inches and put a malediction on them so that every time a vehicle shoots at that unit,
wow.
My vehicles get +1 to it.
That is rude, isn't it? That's really good.
Yeah, it's grim sometimes, absolutely grim. So I've got a Tech Marine in there. He's my actual Warlord. He's got a 6-inch aura of OBSEC, so every model within 6 inches of him is OBSEC. If they're already OBSEC, then they're double OBSEC, which is pretty cool.
Very good.
And I gave him a relic for flat 3 heals, which again is really good. And he also gives the +1 ballistic skill modifier in the shooting phase. So a couple of times I would get a Dreadnought down to 1 wound. They would be hitting on 5s. I would give them +1 to hit, and then I'd heal them flat 3, and they'd go upper bracket, and they'd be back to hitting on 3s. So that's a huge boon for those models. So the Tech Marine was excellent. Then I've got the Grandmaster and the Nemesis Dreadnought. So he's essentially a captain. He gives reroll 1s, hits on 2s, got an extra attack. I didn't have enough points, so he took a Demon Hammer, Demon Great Hammer, which is fine, but the swords are better. And then I've got 5 strikes just with swords, and then 2 basic Dreadnoughts with the Gatling Silencer and the Heavy Psy Cannon. All of my Dreadnoughts and Grandmasters have those 2 guns. They're great.
It's a heinous amount of power from one model.
Yeah, so they've got 18 shots, and then with the swords, they've got 6 strength 8, AP 2 damage shots, and then 12 strength 5, nec 1 damage shots. And then with the swords, they've got a sweep profile. So a basic Dreadnought has attacks ×2, so that's 10 attacks, strength 6, nec 2 damage. So they're very good.
So I was going to ask you a little bit later, Josh, for the layman, why so many Dreadnoughts and why is everyone frothing? It just sounds like they do everything.
Exactly. They're very versatile. And, obviously Drukari's a kingpin. You've got to be able to beat Drukari. I tried a heavy infantry list because the infantry are great as well, but everything in the Drukhari decks just kills, strike bodies. And the problem you've got then is that you can't pop a transport. So the Grandmasters give you that ranged punch to be able to pop the transports and then be able to get to those juicy incubi witches and whatnot on the inside. So that's why I leant towards the Dread Knights, and they're just a fairly points efficient durable chassis. I think it was like 7 strikes is 1 Dread Knight in points. So it's pretty good trade in my opinion. And then my second detachment was Rapiers. I last minute switched that from Prescient Brethren, and I'll probably be going back to Prescient Brethren, but Rapiers give you +1 attack on a Warp Charge 6 power, and Exploding 6s to hit in combat, and that was fine. I've got the Librarian. He's got Gate and Sanctuary. I often use the stratagem to 3d6 cast with him to make those spells very reliable. So Sanctuary is the 4-up invuln, which is pretty important on your not very durable troops. Then I've got another Grandmaster. This guy's got all the tricks. So he's got a once per game 3+ invuln for the rest of the turn. And once per game, when you shoot him, he just redeploys. He deep strikes away, and then you get to retarget your shots. So he was really good at going off in his own flank, while the 2 Dread Knights and the other Grandmaster would sort of stick together with the Tech Marine and form like a little castle that's moving castle. And then I've got 3 units of strikes, 1 with swords, 2 with halberds. I probably should have made that a 10-man strike unit with halberds, just so that if I fought something that I wanted to have them as a 10-man, that I could have, because I then had 2x10 interceptors, and I combat squatted them in 4 out of 5 games. So there's no negative to having them as a 10-man. And then a cheeky little rhino to have my interceptors hiding.
Yeah, right on. You got any questions or comments on the list, Ben?
So you explained about sword bearers with their stratagem. Their psychic power to get +1 to wound. Is it worth mentioning is it the stratagem that gives you the stratagem or psychic power that gives you +1 damage on psi weapons and nemesis weapons?
So that's that's obviously integral, but that's not sword bearer specific. So both my Grandmasters have the power for +1 damage on nemesis and psi. Yeah,
that's true, because you've seen a lot of people taking the sword bearers for that combination. So you've got the 2 CP stratagem and then the psychic power.
No, so they're both psychic powers. So you're saying the 2 CP strat for +1 to hit?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so you can really dogpile on a unit if you need it dead, can't you? So
absolutely, yeah. I personally didn't use the stratagem. I used it once, and it was a mistake when I used it, that +1 to hit stratagem, because with my specific list, I have the 2 Grandmasters, so they already hit on 2s, and then the Tech Marine makes one of the Nemesis Dread Knights hit on 2s, and so I've only got 1 that's hitting on 3s.
Yeah, sure.
So I didn't really need the stratagem.
Yeah, very good, very good. And you said you were thinking about Prescient Brethren. Why did you flip to rapiers at the last minute? What kind of?
So I realised that Prescient Brethren have got an amazing stratagem for 1 CP, which allows you to reroll 1s to hit and 1s to wound, which you can then use on like your Grandmasters and whatnot. And it's just all round good. But most of the points in that attachment were going into my interceptors, which is 480 points, and that's a good stratagem for them as well. What I realized was I looked at the math, and +1 attack is exactly the same maths as reroll 1s to hit and wound for the interceptors, and it saved me CP. And then I also had access to the exploding 6s to hit in combat stratagem for 1 CP. So the interceptors had slightly more output without CP, or with less CP usage. And I didn't realize at the time when I was submitting the list how few things are Brotherhood locked. So what I could have done is actually had my Tech Marine in the Rapiers detachment, what would have been Prescient Brethren, and then given it the Waller trait to generate me CP as well. And it would still be able to affect the other vehicles. So it can heal any vehicle. It can give +1 to hit to any vehicle. It's not brother blocked its abilities at all.
Yeah, wow, very nice.
How did you find the list played, Josh? Were you able to bully a lot with the Grandmasters, or were you playing pretty conservatively?
Yeah, definitely. People did not want to come close to me generally because my output was so good. And I mean, across the board, I've got a couple of sword units, but I mostly have halberds. So my whole army is sort of hitting at strength 6, neg 2 damage, which is just a good general profile. And it's pretty fast, so you don't want to come too close to me at all. And you know, a few people did, and they quickly learnt to stay back.
Yeah, right. All right. Did you have any like go-to secondaries, especially the book secondaries that you relied on during the tournament?
Yeah, I took the Grey Knight secondary Purifying Ritual every game. So basically, you do a psychic action on an objective with a unit. And I realized, actually, I looked very closely at it in my last game because I was playing against Thousand Suns. So the unit has to be on the objective, but whenever you cast a psychic power or a psychic action, you select a model in units that have models. So the model that you select to cast the power doesn't have to be on the objective. The unit has to be on the objective. So you can use that to keep yourself out of deny range, which is cute.
Oh,
but
that is very good. That's worth the entry to this
Yeah.
podcast. Just period. I really like that.
But it's a scaling secondary. So you roll a 5 on each objective, and you can try on the same objective multiple times if you fail. And you get 1 point if you do it once, 2 points if you do it twice on different objectives in the same turn. 4 points if you do it on 3 objectives, and 6 points if you do it on 4 objectives.
Oh wow! So it can just
So you can
snowball.
put the pressure on very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. All right. I think we've kind of got a bit of a feel for what the list does. I think we should start getting into your games, mate. Let me just go back. So first up, you had our mate Simon Gojkovic, who we actually reviewed his list on the preview show. Do you just want to give us a real quick overview? I know it's a Drukari and Elder match, and he's only got 2 CP to start with, but do you just want to give a very broad overview about what's in the list, mate?
Yeah, so basically he had a little bit of combat, but it was mostly MSU shooting in transports. So had some Trueborn, had some Fire Dragons in Falcons, had 3 small units of Dark Reapers that could shoot out of line of sight, and the Night Spinner that could shoot out of line of sight. And then he had like Shining Spears, Incubi, and a couple of choppy characters to sort of deter aggression. So yeah, like you said, you guys spoke to him, and we had a few days before the event to sort of think about the matchup. We knew what the terrain setup was going to be, we knew the mission, and we knew the opponent. So it was quite interesting sitting on it for a few days and formulating a plan. I felt like going into it, my list seemed strong versus him, but I know that Simon's quite a good player. You know, he's represented Australia, I believe. So I was wary about facing this, you know, highly optimized snowflake list that he's got. Yeah, so you can see the deployment here is the mission. So we had a Dawn of War deployment. Oh, one thing I didn't mention in my list is that I got a 30-point upgrade on my tech marine that allows me to redeploy 3 units. So that's anyone that's not a character or a rhino on my list.
That is tasty.
And I believe this is before redeploys, or maybe after I've redeployed before he's redeployed. So he had 2 CP and he decided to Phantasm. I won the roll-off, so I had to redeploy first. So I split up. As you can see, I've got Dreadnoughts on either flank so that I didn't get sort of hemmed in. And I deployed most of my units because I knew that he could screen me out. And I took, for secondaries, I took Raise the Banners, Engage? Yeah, Engage on all fronts, and Purifying Ritual. So I put 2x5 strikes on each back objective to raise the banner and then do the psychic action. And then also sort of mitigated the fact of his out of line outside shooting, being able to just flat out take me off from the objective in quick speed. So I went first. I pushed up. You can see some mandrakes there. He ended up redeploying all his units basically onto the right-hand side and just had a Raider and a Venom in the left-hand corner. So I used... and he redeployed 3 Shining Spears above his crater at the back there so that I couldn't just gate or shunt in between his castles. So I managed to move up, get some shots off, and just kill the Shining Spears with shooting. And then I believe I charged the mandrakes. I might have shot them, I can't remember. I killed the mandrakes there, and then I gated a unit over to the right-hand side to get some shots off on his Falcon to try and get his fire dragons out, but was unsuccessful. And then I'll just quickly go through the first turn because after that it gets pretty dire pretty quickly. I put some interceptors... I put my 5 interceptors up out of the Rhino onto the objective on the left-hand side, and I put Sanctuary on them. So he saw that as my weak flank correctly, and he went straight for them. He sent his Succubus with the Triptych Whip and the Mortal Wounds in. He killed 1 and a Venom in, so he charged them so he could get engaged in all fronts. He killed 1 with Mortal Wounds. And then I rolled 7 out of 8 5-ups, not 4-ups, 5-ups, and watched him tilt. And then I was in the tide to have extra 6 inches of range just because of how far back he was. But I also get Mortal Wounds on 6s to wound in combat. And my 3 interceptors that survived just flat out killed his Succubus and his Venom in one swing, which was heinous. So that denied him any engage points, and it left those 3 models in a good position to go threaten his Raider on that flank and try and take him off that objective. And then his Fire Dragons came out and did nothing to one of my Dread Knights. I think they did 3 wounds in Melter range, so I got a bit lucky there. And then from there, I just basically pushed him in to his corner, and he took an engage on all fronts and got 0 for it. So
yeah. That is a big one, isn't it? Because you guys both, you got 45, he got 35 on primary, but when you start going down the secondaries, that 0 from engage is pretty wild.
Yeah, he was able to do some cool stuff with his Warp Spiders, like moving them around and whatnot, but at the end of the game, he had 5 Warp Spiders and Succubus left, and he sent the Succubus in for some retribution and killed my Grandmaster, but I had so many units on the board, it didn't really matter what he did at that point. It was just like a bit of fun / giving him, not giving him points, but, seeing if he could do it sort of thing.
Yeah, and that ended up 93 to 68 your way, obviously. So that was a cheeky little one. Do you feel there's anything he could have done differently in the matchup, or was it kind of the list smashed together and that's what come out of it?
I don't know that he could have done heaps differently, to be honest. He just couldn't deal with the Dread Knights quickly enough, and I pushed up too aggressively. He targeted my Rhino, actually, thinking about it. He went for my Rhino straight up, which I thought was interesting with his Trueborn. I didn't really care about the Rhino. But, so maybe some target priority there. But just from going first and the redeploys, I had him basically hemmed in that back corner. He had not very many units over there. And surviving so easily with those 3 interceptors meant that I could just push into his corner on the left-hand side, and then he didn't really have enough punch to get through me on the right-hand side. So,
That's it.
Classic things. Classic bad luck. He attacked with his Incubi, and I interrupted onto his Archon, put 8 wounds on it, and he failed the first save, on 1.
Yeah, wow.
Well, that's always to be expected.
Yeah.
If you expect anything else with your Archons, you set yourself up for disappointment. All right, before we move on to game 2, we'll just go through some of the messages. We got Damien commenting on my less of a mustache. So thanks for notice, Damien. That was Ben's missus that got rid of that, actually.
She was not happy. So first
from chafing or what?
Far out. Who brought this bloke on?
So I said, oh, look at these flash new layouts Dale's done, and was showing her, and she was like, what the fuck is that on his face? He should be ashamed. Just laid into him. She was not impressed at all.
What else is happening? Liam's on there. He's pinging on to Napier, calling out the negativity. Because Napier's also said, fuck that list. I don't know what list specifically he's talking about. Do you know what list he's talking about?
Is it the 5?
I can't see the comments.
They should be popping up.
I think he's probably talking about Liam's list.
Yeah, okay. Right, I reckon we move on to game 2, guys. So how do we go in round 2? Let me just pull this up. Do you remember who you had there, Josh?
Yeah, I had Michael Magentis, I think is how you say his last name. He's a lovely guy. So I played him at ATC in Brisbane a couple of years ago, and then I played him in the last round of CanCon a couple of years ago as well. So every time we've been to an event together, we played together, and I've been chatting to him. So it was sweet to catch up with him and give him a game. So he had I think you guys also covered it. He actually reminded me about the live cast you did in the morning. So I listened to your advice on how to beat Simon before the first game.
I don't know.
You guys covered his game as well.
I don't know if that was the intention of covering the list, if it was how for you to beat him, but it's good to know you listened anyways, mate.
Yeah, so anyway, I was stoked to play Mike. We always have a good game.
The Brigade.
Yeah, here's the really weird Eldar Brigade. So you guys covered that. There's a bunch of Dire Avengers and Azumin and some Night Spinners and some Dark Reapers and Shining Spears. Sort of Eldar things.
I'm keen to hear about this because he actually did really well with it.
He did, yeah, and he very nearly beat me, actually. It was a game where it was close on the score, but not on the board, if that makes sense. So he got a bit unlucky turn 1. He went first, and he went for one of my Dread Knights, and he got me down to 1 wound. And this is, what's it called? Not priority target. Direct Assault is the secondary here. So I took Purifying Ritual, Direct Assault, and Engage, probably. No, Stranglehold. Definitely Stranglehold. So he went first. He went straight for that front Dread Knight, and he got him down to 1 wound, which, as I said before, is sort of the exact wrong thing to do, because I went from hitting on 5s to hitting on 3s again, and I went for the extra 6-inch range, and he picked up 3 Dark Reapers, that Dread Knight that turn, so that was handy. And then I went over to the top left to that objective and charged some Striking Scorpions there and took that objective, and I got my Stranglehold. And then turn 2, he fell back and took the objective back off of my Rhino, and did a bit more damage. And then this was a game where we were having too much fun and I made a few mistakes. So I had strikes on the top left objective, so I was controlling it. And I was like, no, I'm going to hop them in the Rhino. I've got my Librarian here in the Rhino, and there's like 2 Striking Scorpions. I should be able to sort this out. And the shooting and the Psychic didn't kill them, so I charged my Librarian in, and my Librarian just died to a Shining... no, not a Shining Spear. What's it called? Striking Scorpion X-Up. Just killed my Librarian.
He had the Power Fists on them, I'm pretty sure, so they were there for work.
Yeah, and it did some... they had some kind of way to do mortal wounds, so that denied me a Stranglehold point, even though, that was my corner of the table, because we were contesting it, my Rhino and the 3 strikes inside versus his 1 Striking Scorpion X-Arc. And then on the bottom right flank, I had 5 Interceptors go into 5 Warp Spiders, and I just couldn't kill them. So after last game where I just had 3 of them kill a Succubus and a Venom, I was just in combat with these Warp Spiders for 2 or 3 turns, and I never actually held that bottom right objective, which was just mind-blowing to me. But I was able to push up through the middle pretty strong, and I was just taking him out. So I think my turn 3, I killed all of his characters, and I failed a short charge from his objective with 3 Interceptors or something into one of his tanks. and I forgot that there was one Dar Avenger on the objective still, so he held that objective. So like there was just a couple of like key little things that I was just missing. And at the end of my turn 3, actually one cool thing on my turn 3, you can see his Dark Creepers in the middle of the board there between the things. So he was getting them out and then fire and fading them back into that top right ruin. And so he got them out and he shot at my redeploying Dread Knight. No, he got them out and shot something else, and then he shot his Warp Spiders at my redeploying Dread Knight, and I redeployed my Dread Knight where the Dark Reapers were, so right between his lines, so that I could get it really deep into his lines going for the Night Spinners, which is pretty cool. So end of turn 3, time caught up with us, and there was 10 minutes left in the round, and we counted up, and he was winning by 3 points, and he's like, I think we should call it there. We're not going to get another turn in each. And I was like, okay. And then the TO was sort of just adjacent. He's like, I mean, there's still 10 minutes. If you guys don't finish turn 3, I'm going to give you both a yellow card. So if you want to keep playing, Josh, then you can. And I felt like it was sort of like a awkward moment for me, because I was like, do I want to keep playing because I win if we keep playing? Am I that guy? Do you know what I mean? It was like an awkward social interaction. And so between me and Mike, we decided we'd just roll a dice. And so he got me to roll a dice, and I have good dice generally, right? I'm a lucky guy. And he said, on a 1, 2, 3, we keep playing. And I was like, but I rolled 4, 5, 6. It's fuck. And I rolled it, and it was a 2. So we kept playing. And yeah, I comfortably got the win, taking out his While We Stand, getting some Purifying Rituals, ensuring another Stranglehold. So I was down 3 points, but I ended up winning by 4 or 5, something like that.
How good! Shout out to the TO for threatening cards. That is some top level work right there.
Yeah. Well, this is my only one of my games that I didn't finish, and if we go on to 5, it wasn't close. You know what I mean? Like he didn't have anything left on the board, but he played his secondaries really well to score them early, and I made a couple of misplays on the primary, like in terms of giving up Stranglehold and just affected my primary basically. Missing that. He definitely
seems like he had enough going on in that list to ensure that he was going to score well on his secondaries. You know, like he definitely into a list that was kitted out for the secondary play. You know, so it was pretty good. So you took Neil at this point, right?
Sorry.
You finished what you were saying. I got a bit of lag, I think. So
I was just going to say with the secondaries, so he took to the last, which was an interesting choice. So it was one of his Night Spinners, and then 5 Shining Spears that he deep struck, and then Azurman. So I managed to. So we like had 4 or 5 minutes each, and he tied up my Dread Knight that I'd aggressively placed on the right hand flank with 3 Rangers or 5 Rangers, and I only killed 2 in combat. And then on my last turn, I cast a Smite, did 3 mortal wounds to kill the Rangers, and then cast a Nala Power to do +1 damage versus his While We Stand with Bite Night Spinner, and then just obliterated the Night Spinner. So it was like some super clutch stuff happening for me to pull that out.
Yeah, cool.
I think I won by 1 point without doing that, but it was cool.
Yeah, right. That is cool. So you're 2-0 at this point, living the dream.
Yeah.
And then you come to round 3 and you play one of the normal blokes themselves. You play Denise, and he's playing Death Watch.
Yeah, so this is really cool because obviously I've been a long time listener of their podcast, and they're great blokes. But I've met Denise a couple of times, but I've not played him before. So he's such a gentleman on the table, and I'd never played Deathwatch before either. So I was a bit worried going into this matchup. I didn't really know 100% all of his tricks or what he could do, but he did the gentlemanly thing, trying to explain before the game sort of what he could get up to. So he had a bunch of kill teams. A lot of his stuff was OPSEC. 3 Dreadnoughts. What are they? Redemptors. And then he had like a Captain, Lieutenant, and Tech Marine. And then he had 3 Scents. And I think that was about it. One of the kill teams was pretty janky, the Spectrus kill team, where you could forward deploy them and so he'd keep 4 eliminators and an infiltrator, and then they'd all have the Omni Scramblers rule where you can't deploy within 12 inches of them, and then the other one was the other way around. And this was on Vital Intelligence. Sadly, I forgot to get any pictures of this game. But with his forward deploying, he deployed the kill team over 4 objectives because he combat squatted them, and he put them over 2 objectives in the diagonal, so both in the middle of both firing lanes.
Sure.
He went first, and
that Spectre's kill team can cause real issues for your Gate of Infinities, can't it?
Yeah, it was a really cool piece. But he decided to play very aggressively with it, which in hindsight was a mistake. So he, the other thing about Vital Intelligence is that it's sticky objectives. So he controlled 5 objectives in his command phase because he deployed on them. So he could have just like backed off and still maintain control. But he'd had some good luck with the eliminators in previous games sniping characters. So he lined up my Tech Marine and went into the Devastated Doctrine to try and just punk him. And luckily I went to the Tide of Shadows and was able to just successfully roll 4 up saves against the eliminators damage. So they didn't actually do anything. And then that's like a 250 point unit that I just picked up and used it as a speed bump essentially to reposition my units. So the other thing that's important about this mission is that even though it's like a Vanguard deployment, I often think of it as a hammer and anvil style mission where you've got 1 objective in your deployment zone and then 2 on your flank, and then your opponent has the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I try generally to control the 3 objectives closest to me and then just interact with the one on their flank, where Denise deployed aggressively onto the objectives, but then his Redemptor Castle was sort of in the middle of the board rather than near the actual objectives. So I was able to get Sanctuary on 5 interceptors and sort of use them to plug a hole for him to get to his objectives at all, just move blocking him. And then they just kind of continued up the middle and just shot the interceptors to take them out. I put a Dread Knight out onto one of the objectives and he just instantly killed it. I was extremely disgusted with his firepower from those 3 Redemptors.
It's gross.
And very worried actually at that point because, I'd essentially lost that Dread Knight for very little in terms of I denied him that objective because it was his by getting there, but it didn't really accomplish much for me, and I just lost sort of a quarter of my shooting firepower. So my turn 2, I was very cagey and defensive and didn't really do anything. I just shored up my position. I deep struck some strikes onto the fire objective so that I could sort of hold that without getting assaulted, and he sort of staged his units to kind of push into me. So I channeled my inner GSC player and just played a tempo game in terms of not engaging him at all, but kind of playing around the objectives. And then his turn 3, he came in because he was getting confident at that point because I'd done no damage other than the Spectrus kill team. And then he killed a Dread Knight and he just came up too far, basically. So he pushed his Redemptor blob up the middle into the center of the table to really threaten my objectives. And I had 1 interceptor on 1 wound that he forgot to shoot on an objective, which was excellent in terms of primary. And yeah, he realized like at the end of his phase that he had nothing left to shoot at it. It was just sort of not in his direct line of sight. And then my turn 3, I changed into the tide that allows me. It's called the Tide of Celerity. Whenever I roll a 1 or a 2 for a dice roll for a charge or advanced roll, it becomes a 3. So that means that I cannot fail 6-inch charges. It's really good. That's my favorite.
That's money.
Yeah. So then I just essentially collapsed on him. And so I I got really excited. I spent like 4 CP on my Dread Knight in the Psychic phase. I'm like, I'm going to 3d6 cast. And I got the +1 damage off. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to cast another spell for another CP. And I had to extend the range as well. And so that's 2 CP. And then it was 3 CP to cast another one. And I cast Vortex of Doom. And it failed on 3d6. And I was like, I'll command point reroll it. And it failed again. I was like, I just wasted that reroll. It was very bad. But it was quite funny spending 4 CP in the Psychic phase. But I did luckily manage to get off the +1 to wound power as well. So I had +1 to wound, +1 damage on a Dread Knight and Dreadnought, and it just went down. Like I just shot it and it went down so quickly. It was amazing. And then I charged another Dreadnought and did some wounds to that with Smite on the way in as well, and killed 2 Dreadnoughts out of his 3. And then I lit him up and just charged everything. So I charged the Centurions, I charged his 3 characters, I made like 2 charges into other random units. I just charged everything. And so he interrupted with his captain, I think, which was fine just to kill some interceptors. But that was like a fight I didn't actually care about. It wasn't on an objective. It wasn't really important in the context of the game, but he just wanted to preserve his characters. And from there, it was sort of just over. I killed like 1,000 points of his army on turn 3, basically.
Yeah, Jesus.
And my Rhino, I charged into his Dreadnought as well. And then I killed the Dreadnought in combat with my Dread Knight. And then the Rhino just pushed forward with a pile and a consolidate 6 inches, and again plugged a hole so that his Dreadnought then couldn't get to my Dread Knight. And yeah, after that, it was just a mop up, basically.
Yeah, a few cheap plays. It looks like...
So the scoreboard blew out, as you can see.
You can see the primary, he only got 5, which is just... I think you
might be turn 2.
You might be a bit of a bully, mate. That's pretty wild.
I was lucky that the terrain was pretty supportive in that game. Instead of having elves in the center, they had like walls, sort of like... should be the same way, like this sort of thing. So I could just hide all my Dread Knights behind a wall and he couldn't see them.
It's interesting to demonstrate. That's a perfect game to demonstrate what Grey Knights are all about now, and that is not this psychic army which used to just bombard you with 2 damage smites. It's really they are just a brutal melee machine which is just supported by and turned up to 11 by psychic powers, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that's 100% correct.
Because they're just nuts. It shows you when you're in that range, especially with that Rhino and the interceptors in there, getting an extra, you're getting 15 inches, aren't you? Plus a charge out of those. So you've just got so much. It's like, it's 27 inches. Obviously, that's a 12-inch charge, but you still can't afford to have your interceptors getting into your lines like that. Did you combat squad both of your units again in this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so, like you said, I had a 15-inch move out of the Rhino, and then a guaranteed 6-inch charge. So my minimum threat range was 21 inches from the Rhino.
Yeah. No. Gross.
So 5 went into the characters out of the Rhino, and got interrupted on, and then other 5 left 1 Centurion on 2 wounds. Sorry, I killed 2.5 cents. So
sure. Is there any way that if Denise hadn't have come up so quickly, is there a way that could have really been hard work for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that was a critical turn. I getting the charge off on the Dreadnought was probably the biggest point, because the Dreadnought was on like maybe 6 wounds after Psychic. Picking up the second Dreadnought really hampered his killing potential. And then I guess just picking up his other kill teams around the board basically mitigated his scoring potential.
Sure, and let's face it, those Dread Knights, they have profiles which can suit most things they go into, but they don't seem to struggle to kill a Redemptor, do they really? They're there with their profiles at all. I mean, I know a fight.
Kind of like the -1 damage is a big problem for the Grey Knights because everything is damaged too. Like my Psy Cannons are damaged too in shooting. All my combat weapons are damaged to, other than the D6 damage on the swords. But obviously getting off the +1 damage spell sort of mitigates that.
Sure. Do you find that there's not much AP3 in Grey Knights either, is there? Like, it's certainly not in the shooting.
Correct. So there's a 1 CP stratagem to make your strength and AP increase on one of your model shooting. So I use that stratagem quite a bit. I find it's more useful on the silences. So the thing I like about it is the silencer's strength 5, and if you give it +1 strength, it's strength 6. And then if you cast +1 to wound on a raider, then it's suddenly gone from winning on 5s to winning on 3s.
And it's almost wounding most things games on the 2 or 3 anyway, isn't it? Really, So
yeah. So, but having +1 strength on the psi cannons, going to strength 9 is only sometimes relevant. But the extra AP3 is pretty good.
Righto, so you finished game 3. That's 3-0. That's pretty good.
Done. You're at the. Yep.
Sorry, did you manage to have the matchups for who you're going into on round 4 for the evening, or did you?
Yeah.
You did, yeah. So did you just go and grab some beers with the boys and stuff like that, and then head back and then have a little brainstorm over the matchup?
Not really. So we definitely went out for some beers and burgers with the lads in a big group, and then we went back to the pub where we were staying. Adam went off to bed to ponder his matchup with Liam, quite early, but I stayed up, had a couple of beers and a banter with the lads. I was even though I did quite well, I was taking it pretty easy in terms of I was there to meet people and have a good time, right? So that was what it was all about for me, building new friendships and yeah.
Listen,
so I wasn't too stressed. I was playing a Speedway round 4, and I didn't know that I could beat it, but I wasn't hyper vigilant or stressed about it. I was like, I'll do what I can do. I'll just have a quick look at what the units do. I played a Speedway before, see how it goes. I think it's a bad matchup for both of us.
Righto. Well, before we hit on round 4, so let's just set the scene. You're 3-0. You've already slayed one of the normal blokes at their own GT. And then you got the Speedway. I just want to say we've got a few comments coming in and a few Grey Knight ones directly for you, Josh. We will touch on them at the end of the cast. I've been saving them. But before we get on to the round 4, I think we're going to hear a little word from our sponsors. So we'll get into that.
Buy some dice. They're pretty good. They roll lots of 6s. D6 dice. Etsy. It's on the Etsy store. Yeah, just buy the dice and click on the link. Use the code. Yep. DU40KL for 10% off.
Righto, and we're back. What are you doing there, Ben?
I just dropped my phone and just went flying off the table.
You're doing well, mate. You're doing really well. You bought any dice yet, Josh? I've been harassed. You've heard that dice ad enough. Surely it's enticed you.
I haven't bought any dice.
Oh.
I need the dice I have to strike fear into my opponents.
You going all right there, Ben? How's that lag treating you?
Yeah, I wasn't so good then. I don't know what was going on then. I thought I'd dropped out for a second, but all good.
That's all right, mate.
So round 4, battle lines. How do you feel about battle lines in Grey Knights in general?
I've always liked battle lines as a mission. It's not one we play very often, but it's a mission that really forces you to play the mission, which I like. I often play armies with heavy obsec. I like troops. I like controlling objectives more so than tabling people normally. So I find that battle lines generally suits my style of play. For Grey Knight specifically, I think it's fine. The interceptors have the movement out of rhinos to just threaten the objectives anywhere, basically. And certainly the Dread Knights, in the way that I'm playing them, work as a castle. So they just take one flank and shoot at the other flank. And then I have the interceptors or strikes to interact with that flank if needed.
Sure. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the list you were coming up against and who was piloting it?
Yeah, so Paul Gurney was playing the list. He was a lovely guy. He painted himself green for the event.
Oh no! How do we not have a picture of this? If someone has a picture of this madman, can they send it to the Down Under 40K Facebook page, and I'll get it up while we're talking. So surely someone's got a picture.
I'm pretty sure the pictures I sent you have got him in there. Measuring stuff and with green arms. I think it's a relatively standard sort of speedwire archetype with the Death Skulls and the Freebooters. So he has like 12 buggies, 2 planes, and then 2 commando squads and 3. What are the dudes with jump backs called?
Storm Boys.
Storm Boys. Thank you. He didn't really. One thing that I guess is pretty important is that he didn't really have a choppy character. Like he had a war boss, but it hit like a wet paper towel when it got into combat. So, didn't really do anything.
So we all know that these lists can go a bit backwards and forwards in terms of who goes first. A lot can depend on that. So obviously, did you and Paul manage to discuss that when deploying?
Not so much. So Paul made some really. I think this is the symptom of like the next day playing is that he overthought it and made some interesting choices. So, in terms of secondaries, he took To the Last, which he took on his 2 Rucker Truck, 2 units of 2 Rucker Truck Squig buggies, which is a good option there in the backfield. Anyway, I guess, and his 8 or 9 war bikers that he had. See, there's the green arm.
That's not a. Is that green over a tattoo? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, he decided to take To the Last, but he also decided to. He was obviously pretty afraid of my output, so he decided to outflank in strategic reserves all 3 units of his mecha tracked scrap jets, which are like his best unit. So he preserved them to have sort of an alpha with them. But what he didn't account for is if I went first, which I did. So one other thing I guess that I should mention is that I didn't read the players pack, and I didn't know this, but
you're a TO and you didn't read the players pack. You scumbag.
I know, right? I know. So I didn't realize they did this, but if you're in the top 4 after round 4, you're bracketed. So you get extra battle points. So if you're playing first and second, you stay first or second, win or loss, which is what happens to me. Spoilers. But I didn't realize that. So Paul was really nervous coming into the game and jittery. And somebody else had come and borrowed my chess clock at the start of the game for a different game. And then he was in his deployment and he was like here and then there. And he was just sort of like a bit all over the place trying to make sure everything was pre-measured. And you can see with the terrain setup, he basically deployed all his squig buggies in this bottom right ruin, the big ruin there. But I was measuring and showing him, look, if I gate to, the other side of the map, I've got a line here, and I was trying to just, be quite clear about my paths and whatnot. So, he was quite stressed out, and I got a little bit frustrated and concerned because deployment was taking so long, and I was like, "Look, like you've done, a bit of shuffling here, man, which is fine, but like, can we just hurry it up a bit? Like, I don't want to get behind the ball." And he ended up, getting a deployment he was relatively happy with, and then I went first. So I immediately shunted my Grandmaster that's independent up right in front of his ruin there on the bottom right. And I said to him, look, I'm guessing your intention is not to be within an inch of this wall. And he's like, oh, no, I definitely didn't mean to do that. I must have just moved them too close to moving. And I was like, dude, that's fine. That's fine. But on the side of the wall, you were definitely trying to mitigate my angles. So you're well within an inch there. So I think it's only fair, that if I make a long charge, that's fine. And he's like, okay, cool. And so I went about my turn. I kill a shock jumps, dragster. I kill the commandos he's put up, and not much else. I do 5 or 6 wounds to one of his Akajets. And then I go for this charge. And so I roll it. I was like, I was trying to measure it, but it's quite difficult. And I was like, I'll just roll it, see if it's relevant. And I rolled an 11. And he was like, oh, look, I'm not sure because the bases are curved. I don't know where it intersects. So 11 might not be enough. And I was like, let's just get a TO, that way, we don't have a vested interest in it. Let's just be chill about it. I was pretty relaxed.
That's the way to do it. You get the TO.
Came over to measure it, and I was like, yeah, and he was stressed out, and we obviously have, I want it to be an 11, he doesn't want it to be an 11, so let's not argue. And I went and got the TO, and then I was like, oh, by the way, this is my one with the Warlord trait for +1 to charge, actually, so it is a 12. So it was definitely in with the 12. So I immediately killed 1.5 of his rocket trucks, and then he pulled it out of combat, and I just consolidated into the other 2. So they basically never got to shoot. That was pretty decimating, and it was pretty much over from there, to be honest.
Yeah, all blast weapons as well.
No,
they?
So he, yeah, that's right. They're okay in combat. I think they did 1 or 2 wounds, but then he sent his war boss over, and I was like, all right, buddy, I've got my 3+ info. I'm like, just run me through what this war boss does. And he's like, their strength 6, -1 D3 damage. I was like, yeah, that's fine. And he charged his war boss in, and I took 1 or 2 wounds, and I just punked the war boss. And then I had free reign. That Grandmaster cast +1 damage onto the unit of 2, shot them, charged them, and then consolidated back into the other one. And also because he'd outflanked and it was like hammer and anvil, I just moved everything up to screen the sides of the board so he could only go into his backfield, essentially. I had 2 interceptors go in. I decided to charge them into 5 storm boys, and they just killed all 5 of them in his other ruin. And yeah, so he was just trapped in his deployment zone. And then he came down. He killed 1 Dread Knight. He shot my Grandmaster. It redeployed into hiding behind the L there, and then he shot my other Grandmaster for 2 or 3 wounds. And then this is my highlight of the tournament probably. I cast the +1 to wound and +1 damage onto 1 unit of 2 scrapjets. And then as I was saying, the silencer, if you could take it from strength 5 to strength 6 and it's got +1 wound, that's essentially +2 to wound. So I spent the stratagem for +1 AP, +1 strength, and then I shot my 6 sky cannon shots, hitting on 2s, all hit, wounding on 2s because of +1 to wound, all wound. It's now -3. He doesn't get a save. Flat 3 damage each. That's 18 damage. Get those.
That is rude.
So I used to shoot the second gun. That was grim. I did.
That's
that
some clutch stuff.
Well, it wasn't clutch. I had, I didn't need to do that. I had more. It was
just
over. And he was just like, he saw that.
Oh,
he saw that. He was just like, this is done.
Not clutch. Sorry. Rubbing salt into the wound sounds more like it.
Yeah. No, hang on. He went first. So he brought them into 2. After my turn 3, I think he had 3 trucks, 3 of the scrapjets left, and that was it. So we called it there. I quickly rolled my psychic powers and got them all off on the point. So I got a 15 for psychic ritual as well.
It was
right.
That's good. Another one from you, Josh, where you've only let them get 5 primary again, and he got 0 for to the last. So obviously, the amount of killing output your army's got to the last isn't a great pick for a lot of armies.
Yeah, and I mean, I was a bit lucky that I made that charge. That obviously helped a lot. But yeah, I don't know. It would have been interesting to see what the Squig Buggies could have done with the, was it 4 of them with 3d6 shots each or whatever.
So that was number 4 down, 4-0 on the trip. Were you messaging who were you telling? Did you message the missus? You're like, oh, I'm 4-0, honey. Did she care? That's
Yeah, I called my wife in a lunch break.
No.
And I should mention. So I'm a nurse. I work in a hospital here in South Australia, and there's a spattering of like 15 people with COVID in Brisbane. So by going up to the GT, I couldn't go back to work for 2 weeks. So it's an expensive trip all of a sudden when I'm not getting paid for 2 weeks of work.
Wow.
And I was like, babe, I've guaranteed second spot. I'm going to.
It's all worth it, honey. It's all worth it.
It's basically my full-time job, right? Like,
Jesus Christ. She would have been like, fucking, stop wasting my time.
Right.
Stop wasting.
Yeah.
Before we get into round 5, I will, Bozza here, I'll highlight another message. Day will have to break the seal shortly, so I'm going to go for a piss. I think you two should do a deep... deep dive into Liam's list, because I know a lot of the boys were asking about it before. So go have a little scroll through that, and then keep moving on. I'll be back in 1 second.
Okay, Dave.
Do you have the power to put it on the screen, Ben, or?
No, mate. No. We're going all primitive here. So he'll bring it on there. So basically, he ran Thousand Suns, the new book, which came out at the same time as yours, obviously. And it's quite a basic list in terms of data sheets. It doesn't have too many of them, but he's definitely gone for a primary centric list in terms of his unit choices, certainly in his troops. And Adam had already played him. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's meant to be a helpful resource for me. My mate who's just come to the tournament with him has played him and just got smashed by him, and I was like, all right, tell me what I got to do. How do I win this? He's like, you don't. It's like, what do I do? He's like, nothing. You can't kill anything. It's ridiculous.
So why don't you explain why it's hard to kill something in there? Because you've seen it happen. Because he's got 2 ways to bring units back, doesn't he?
Yeah, so, models, not units. So
models,
models,
units, I should say.
Just quickly, so he's just got Ahriman, who basically has 3 smitey type powers, and then was often using Cabal points to do a 4th D3 damage. So he was doing a lot of output in the psychic phase. And then the Exalted Sorcerer was just... and then what else? He brings... Anything that's wounded is healed at the start of his command phase. Or if they're below starting strength and there's no one damaged, they get a model back. And then there's some kind of psychic power or stratagem to get another model back. So at one point he got 2 Terminators back, which was just grim.
Yeah. So there's a lot of models in this list, and a lot of now 2 wound models as well. So, and they're actually a bit more resilient than they look, aren't they? So,
they definitely are. They've all got 5-up invos, and they've all got AP2 bolters, which is pretty good. And they've still got access to +1 to wound. So they also have an intercept stratagem for 8 within 18 inches, so like all spec scan basically, which is annoying for an army that teleports around the board.
Yeah, especially 18 inches as well. So nice. That's a good size.
It's a really good projection of threat. Yeah.
So I'm just having a look and seeing, like, he didn't take many of the warp. He didn't take any warp flamers, so it was just the Soul Reaper cannons he had on there.
Yeah, correct.
Cool.
And
all right, well, why don't you tell us a little bit? You're playing Overrun, so you're playing like Mission 31, which is a 2 or more. Did the 2 or more, out of all the maps you probably would have wanted to play on this, it probably wouldn't have been the 2 or more, would it?
No, not really. And I forgot that it was a 2 or more as well, but not that didn't make a big difference. But it's obviously not ideal to get those sorts of
in our game too that we played. You and I, we played this match. Both forgot that it was 2 or more. So top level stuff.
Is this the mission that we played? Yeah, it looks like the mission we played.
It is.
If you sent me the right pick, it is.
Oh no, we're talking about our game at Terracon.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm lost.
No, we're saying that we both forgot it was 2 or more when we played this map as well. So when he told me he forgot it against Liam, I thought it was quite funny.
Oh, good to see you learn from your mistakes there, Josh.
Yeah.
Nailed it. So I think I made a few errors straight up with my deployment, like looking at it. So this is after my first turn. I had to gate my Grandmaster. So the frontmost Dreadnought in that blob of 3 is actually my Grandmaster, which was probably a mistake because he instantly killed that one. And obviously that's a force multiplier for me with its psychic powers and the reroll 1s for the other 2 Dreadnoughts. I also didn't position my Tech Marine well, so I had to roll an advance to get him onto the objective, and you can see he's sort of sitting on top of the ruin there. On the right-hand side. And I was worried that he was too exposed, and it turned out that he was. I did manage to kill 10 Rubric Marines from his central objective there. He waited until I killed about 5 or 6 and then used the stratagem to reduce the damage by 1. But I managed to kill them to the man, which was fortunate. I took banners because I didn't have amazing secondary options versus him. I took the what's it called? The one where you kill. It's not called
No prisoners.
Thin their ranks. No prisoners. Yeah, the new thin their ranks. And I took my psychic.
It's quite tempting to take that against this list because everything's 2 wound and there's a lot of points there on the board, but you've got to therefore chew through a lot in return.
Yeah.
So,
but that was okay. I took Psychic Ritual again, even though it was a bit dicier. Like I said, I thought about it a little bit, and I realized that I could sort of string out a little bit to try and get out of deny range and still get the powers off. And we've got lots of denies for each other, but things get through. And then I took Raise the Banners, which I don't really like, but it was just sort of a mission that encouraged that. And that was probably a mistake in hindsight. Anyway, after my turn... Sorry, say that again?
No, don't worry. It's the lag. You go.
After I went first, I was feeling okay. I failed the charge on the left-hand side there with my Grandmaster into his Rhino in the ruin. And then he managed to get out of that Rhino and still get a banner on that middle objective. And then he got out on the right-hand flank and warp timed some Rubric Marines up, shot and killed my Grandmaster. And then he used his Dark Matter Crystal, which they've renamed something else, Umbric Crystal or something like that. And he put them next to that, the right-hand crate. No, not crate, crater. And so he made just a casual 9-inch charge with his Scarab Occults into my Strike Marines and a 7-inch charge with his Rubrics into my Tech Marine on my right-hand objective there. And what was important about that was that he didn't kill my Tech Marine because Rubrics don't have any combat weapons and I had a 2-up save. But he wrapped the Tech Marine and then he put the wrapped Rubrics between my army and his Scarab Occults and took my objective off of me. So I basically had to funnel my whole army into his Scarab Occult Terminators, and they would not die. They were a real problem. So I sent my interceptors out from my Rhino there. They jumped over the forest and went straight, and they killed the Rubrics without issue. But then I killed maybe 4 Terminators or something like that. And I charged a Dreadnought into the Rubrics as well. And then I just decided to tag him into the Terminators just because their combat is good, but their shooting is better. And I sort of remained in combat with those Terminators for a couple of turns, but I couldn't shift, and I ended up having to sort of abandon that flank.
Right.
Yeah, and he took he took stranglehold and he just kind of stole one of my objectives straight off the bat in his turn 1, tore down my banner, and I just couldn't get it back. Couldn't wrestle it off of him.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much the game, to be honest. Not being able to deal with them efficiently was a real issue for me.
Well, it definitely, because it's
we
so...
did have a bit of fun, though.
Sorry, because it's so base heavy, that list, he can just, and it's actually quite mobile, he can just fling them around, and once he's in your face and he's got those defensive strats, like it's more like, right, how quickly can you get rid of this? He smothers you, seems to smother you, and then say, how quickly can you get rid of this? And if you just can't seem to tilt it in your favour quick enough, then you're just, then it's all too late. You haven't scored enough points. Because he's got scoring points of obsec units while you're waiting to try and kill him as well, aren't you? So
correct. I think in hindsight, I needed to be a bit more dynamic and maybe just abandon that flank and go after his. Just sort of get away from those Terminators, because once they've done their reposition, they're not actually very mobile. They do shoot reasonably well, but I could have tied him up with a Dreadnought or something for a turn or two and gone over to his flank. The problem I had was that you can see I had my interceptors in the Rhino on the left-hand side, and it was quite a distance to get to that objective on his top left. It was just a bit too dicey for me. But I was on the back foot. I probably needed to make those riskier sort of plays. And I eventually, on turn 3, I think it was, I put my other unit interceptors into the Rhino and moved the Rhino up a little bit. But then he just came out and warp timed on that side and wrapped the Rhino. So I had to kill my way out of combat again on that side. In the end of the game, I did manage to kill all of the rubrics, but the Scarab Occult Terminators just slowly took that flank and then took my central objective. It was. I was not able to get a grip on the primary, and I couldn't deny him his stranglehold.
So he can still move those inches as well, can't he? With the warp time. So move them 10 inches, then he can still get a 12-inch charge on them, type thing. So they're a little bit more mobile.
They move 6. Yeah, they definitely are. It was
does mean
impressive.
Got a cast on.
The thing is, though, I couldn't even deny him. He just rolls up an 8+ and then spends points, and I can't deny him. It was they really actually dominate the psychic phase compared to the Grey Knights, because they've got a couple of ways to not be denied. They also have a stratagem to deny power on 3d6, adding them together, whereas Grey Knights have got 3d6, pick the 2 highest. So it was actually a pretty bad matchup, I think, for the Grey Knights. Liam describes it very well on his podcast, The Normal Blokes.
Yeah, that's a little rough.
But anyway, we had a bit of fun.
You're right, Josh. Go.
I started a Rhino war. My Rhino was on the left-hand side shooting his Rhino, and I was like, we had the little Spider-Man meme of like, hey, we're both Rhinos. We're going to shoot each other. And I was getting angry at him. He was like, playing seriously, and he was like, right, my Rhino's going to shoot your Dreadnought. I was like, no, your Rhino's shooting my Rhino. We're having a Rhino war. And we were just he said it's the most relaxed he's been on a top table, which is nice. I was happy to be there. I didn't really expect to win. I sort of just, I don't know. I obviously had some good games, sort of progressively getting better probably through the tournament, but I didn't feel like I did anything exceptional. I just my list just kind of waltzed through some other people's lists, took advantage of mistakes at key times. It was good. I had the highest strength of schedule at the tournament as well, which was nice. Everybody I played finished in the top 20 out of the 47 players or whatever. So, yeah, it was cool.
That's right. That's so obviously, congratulations on the result. That's a big effort, mate.
Yeah, they gave me a pretty sweet trophy as well. I don't know if it'll capture.
Oh wow!
But,
cool. That's mint.
Yeah, it is pretty.
That
cool.
is lovely. That is. Was it? Yeah, I've heard before. The you might be able to comment on on this now, mate. The big dogs don't care about the prize support. They love the unique trophies. They're all about the trophies.
Yeah, I don't really have many trophies. I'm not generally that successful, so I love it. I got this one as well, which I love because it's an
I don't have many trophies. Let me grab another trophy off my trophy cabinet.
And I got another one for a teams event, but that's it. I've got 3, so it's nice to have the trophies.
You got any trophies for your second place at RTT, Ben?
No, mate. No.
That's all right. So that sounds like a blast. Before we get into more Grey Knight stuff, and we've got a few questions for you, Josh, I just wanted you to talk about. So it sounds like you and Adam have been doing a few trips around the country. And I asked Ben this when he went to Terracon. Can you chat a little bit about what I would say is you guys obviously have connections in the community, so it's a little bit different, but at the same time, anyone can make connections in. Everyone wants to talk 40K. Can you chat a little bit about travelling to other states and other tournaments where you might not actually know many people there, but how you get around having a good time, getting over any anxiety you might have about going to a new place, new people, and just how much you enjoy it and all that type of stuff. Because I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty outgoing person, and I like to think I can talk to most people, especially if you've got something in common like the hobby. So I've certainly got that up my sleeve. The way I actually met people in the hobby was I went to Terracon 4 years ago now, and that was my second ever event. And I just drove there by myself. It's like a 4 or 5 hour drive to Naracoorte, and I just sort of met people there basically, and been friends with them ever since, just about. So I don't know. It's great. Like Ben did it. Obviously, he came down to Terracon, and I'd had chats with him, but I hadn't met him before. And then we were lucky enough to play, and now we chat all the time. So I think it's really a nice thing to go to a different place, see different people, see how people play the game differently. Because obviously, the way people use terrain or interpret rules or construct lists is, every meta is different. Essentially, right? We're all playing our little silos in our different states. So yeah, I think it's great. If you love the game, and you've been to some tournaments locally, why not? Why not go out and meet some new people, play some different people, and that in itself is great, right? Going out and just playing someone you never played before, having a laugh, and yeah, it's good.
Right, that's tasty. I got a little. Well, we're going to move a bit into how you feel Grey Knights are going to sit in the meta, how they're going to move. Maybe I'm sure you got a few thoughts, might flex your muscles. But to lead us into that, Sean Kamali has asked. You mentioned that you were going to switch back to the Prescient Brethren. Is that just for the CP farm warlord trait? Would that strat and psychic power from the rapiers not be more worth it? Just seemed to be more worth it to me. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's like the question that a lot of Grey Knights players are asking themselves. The thing is, with the thing I like about Prescient Brethren is that the stratagem is just good. Like rerolling ones to hit and wound is just good, and you don't have to dedicate the rapier stuff is good for interceptors specifically, the +1 attack and the exploding 6s to hit, but you're never going to use that on a Grandmaster. Whereas the Prescient Brethren stuff you can use on either. So I think it's just handy. It's a really good tool to have, especially on the Grandmasters that are hitting on 2s already, and then they've got the good strength 8 and strength 5 shooting. We're rolling ones to wound. Just adds a level of consistency. To the list, and I think the CP regen is good if you can make it work in the list, which I couldn't find a way to do when I wrote the list originally, but that was just because I misunderstood the Brotherhood keywords and how they interacted. I would definitely have spent a CP to give my Tech Marine a second warlord trait to generate more CP. The exploding 6s stratagem for 1 CP. It's just spicy, right? Like if you're combat squatting your dudes, which I think is the correct choice in almost every situation, like most matchups, you want to combat squad you guys. So 5 interceptors have 16 attacks, 21, I guess, if you got the stratagem off. Let's say it's 21. That's only 3 extra hits. Exploding 6s to hit. You're paying 1 CP for 3 extra hits. Like, it's not really that good. It's only good if you're like all in on a big blob to get value out of it. So sure. I found that the strat wasn't very clutch, and the psychic power was good, but I don't think it was game breaking.
All right. Well, this is the part of the show where if anyone's got any questions for Josh about any of the Grey Knight stuff, about any of the stuff that happened in the tournament, I think he likes to consider himself a bit of a tyranny connoisseur as well, so I'm sure he wouldn't mind touching on some tyranny questions. But Ben, do you want to ask Josh a little bit about Grey Knights moving forward and where he feels they're going? You got any specific avenues you want to go down, Ben?
Yeah, sure. So do you feel that they're like, was there anything going into this tournament you were specifically really worried about? And do you feel that with the more popularity of orcs coming in, and because it will get to the point where people will start using board control style orc lists, do you think you'll prepare, like, keep evolving this list, or do you think you said you were going to go to 5 Nemesis Dread Knights? Why exactly is that? Is it just because they're very good, or is it because you're scared of anything in particular?
No, they're just very good, I think. They're durable for the points. 2+, 4+ is a great saving profile. You got a 5+ against mortal wounds as well. 13 wounds is a good number in terms of damage 3 weapons. You need 5 of them to get through to kill your damage 2 weapons. Again, it's not super efficient, most guns shooting at them. And yeah, they just got great output.
Sure.
Great output. So yeah, I'm going to get another one and experiment with 5.
So would you have to change your slots in order to fit 5 in there?
I'll go to a spearhead get the. I mean, I could have one in my second patrol. The reason I was just trying to conserve CP because I think the stratagems are good generally.
Yeah.
There's quite a few you want to be using, but the +1 access to the +1 to wound is worth a CP essentially.
Sure. And do you think you'll go to the what are they called? The sword bearers? Is it the sword bearers?
Yeah. So definitely have a sword bearer spearhead. Yeah.
Spearhead, right? Yeah, I've got those. Them. Okay. So I've heard a lot of talk about Drago, and that is definitely like. I don't really pay much attention to the kind of micro chats like that, but obviously since you winning, knowing that we're going to be doing this, I've been reading into it, and it seems like he's quite a contentious character in there. So, yeah, mate, but it also seems like a lot of people are arguing your side as well, which is with a double tech marine. So I wondered if you could just like touch upon your decision process on those two.
Yeah, so I did a couple of sort of test iterations with the list, and I had Drago in it initially. The problem with Drago is that he's a named character, so you can't use the Gifts of the Prescient or the Visions of the Augarium on him, which are sort of the upgrades that you can take on the characters. So they're equivalent to like Cryptic Arcana or the Space Marine upgrades, whatever it is, Grand Orator or whatever. And I think there's a lot of tech there. There's some really cool stuff like the redeploys there, the once per game 3+ invul. You can ignore Overwatch once per game. You can heroically intervene once per game. You can Spec scan once per game. Like there's quite a few cool little tech pieces in there. So Drago not having access to those. And I also just found him a bit hard to position. Now, these were in my early iterations of the list, but I got him in combat with a Telemon, and Telemon's are obviously very durable, but he just didn't do anything. And I was just like, if he can't beat up on these things, then what's the point of him? So, Yeah, I took him out. I don't think it's wrong to take him. I think he is good objectively. And the Swordbearer Spearhead with him as the HQ is a common detachment, I think, for Grey Knights players because he gives the reroll ones and then gives full rerolls to one.
Do you think with some of the more durable armies, you'd consider taking things like purifiers or anything like that? Is there any? Do you think that that in like the interceptors and the strike squads and the dread knights, that's pretty much it? Like, is that what we're going to see from now, or do you think you're going to find people delving into those other units? I know obviously we need to wait for a meta change or switch, but at the moment they're kind of all very similar. Like a lot of the top lists at the moment for Grey Knights.
I like purifiers. So I mean, they're essentially strike marines that have got a 3 damage smite, right? That cast on a 4.
Sure.
The problem, they're 5 points more than strikes, and they're not obsec. I had them in the list originally, so I had 10 purifiers and 10 strikes, but when I switched from a single battalion into a double patrol and upgraded one of my dread knights to a grandmaster, it sort of I lost the points for the purifiers essentially and had to turn them back into strikes.
They're just not as good as the dread knights, are they? Really, that's the thing. I think.
Yeah, it's just the durability. Like I sort of said before, I think it's something like 7.5 strikes per dread knight, and just having the 2 up save, 4 up invuln, T6 chassis. So it's 13 T6 wounds instead of 14 T4 wounds.
Yeah, and I think what you said is with Grey Knights, it's very, very commonly misconceived that really the only invuls you've got are the Dread Knight ones or one unit that you've put the power on, and that's pretty much all how you're sitting, isn't it? There's no other invuls. You're just a marine. Everything's got high AP these days. So back of the, obviously you can chuck them in cover and stuff like that, but things have got AP3 all the time, and there's usually a lot of attacks. So it's it doesn't really mean too much. So I understand your thought process there. So.
Yeah, and this event, the terrain, as you can see in that picture, it was quite good for me for my strikes. They would often be on, hidden in a ruin, on an objective. So that was really good for keeping them alive a lot of the time. But in some matchups, I would just cast Sanctuary on my guys in the backfield objective to try and deny kill points and secure objectives.
Yeah, fantastic.
I got one for you, Josh. So you said the list kind of did its thing against a few guys, kind of irrespective. I think you were trying to play what you did down and how well the list did, but then you run into Liam and you obviously had your problems. For anyone that's worried about Grey Knights, what would you have to say? I guess the Normal Blokes GT wasn't a great tester of what smacks them around, but what are you worried about when you come to the table?
In terms of matchups that I'm worried about, or
just in general, not so much matchups, just as what other armies can do to you, not stereotypes, but
archetypes.
There we go. You can tell you're not on the beers tonight, mate. You're doing a lot better than me. What's some archetypes? What's some things that you don't feel they do well against?
So I guess they're a mid-range army. So you can have a tide for +6 inches to your range, but even then, that's 30-inch guns, 9-inch movement. So in some circumstances, people were deploying so far back that I couldn't utilize my Dread Knights effectively turn 1, which isn't a bad thing, right? That's giving me board control. But that's an issue. I think armies that have lots of vehicles that are tough. So I played against some Telemons and found that challenging. -1 damage in general. I played some Death Guard yesterday and got absolutely smacked around. So it can be quite challenging from that perspective. I don't think you're worried about hordes at all because you've got so many Storm Bolter shots and attacks out of your little units. An Interceptor squad puts out 40 Storm Bolter shots and then 31 attacks. You're not too worried about hordes. It's strength 6 as well.
Wow.
So I guess things that things with high toughness, the like toughness 7 is actually a bad breakpoint for me because most of my army is strength 6 in combat anyway. The dreadnoughts are strength 10 on the swords, like D6 damage profile, and then you've got the psi cannons. But if you're at that awkward profile where you're, say, like a plague burst crawler where you're T8 and -1 damage, that's not a great profile for many things, I guess, but for Grey Knights in particular. And I guess the other thing is things with excellent saves can be challenging as well. So that's what I found versus Liam because, he had 2 ups versus all my 1 damage shooting. He negated that AP on my psi cannons essentially to have 3 ups. Not my psi cannons, on my silencers. So, Terminator heavy builds are an issue. And then I guess another Death Guard potential problem is the fights last guy, because there's no fights first, fights last in the book. So that's something you just avoid like the plague.
Basically. That's cool.
But with the Dreadknights, at least you have the ranged threat to put down. If it was Death Guard, it would probably be a block of Flight Lords or something with that character around. You just shoot them and stay away from them, I think, rather than charging them.
Can we confirm you are now a Grey Knights player and you're not going to jump back to Drukhari or back to the Nids? You're until Nids get some books at least.
I'm certainly on the Grey Knights for now. I won't be going back to Drukhari. Tyranids should have a Hard Flip Leviathan supplement soon, and the Gene Stealer Cults Codex is coming out, and I love my GSC. So they're one of my favourite army in 8th. But we'll see. I'm very content with the Grey Knights for now.
Yeah, right on. Well, congratulations, Ben. I might even. He's done very well. It sounds like you had a blast of a time. It sounds like the tournament was a sesh. Oh, for anyone that's still having a listen, when I was listening to the Normal Blokes podcast, what you did remember this stat, Josh? They said like 15 or 17 blokes that are ATC level players at that event. That's what. Did you remember that out of their podcast?
Yeah, I think everybody maybe Paul had just about every guy I played. I'm pretty sure it was either on the Queensland team or the Mercenary team because the last ATC was in Queensland. I am an ATC player myself. Yeah. Lovely.
All right, I'll do it again because I didn't have it lined up. Okay. Congratulations from Down Under 40K.
Thanks, lads.
Thanks for coming on again. You've outdone yourself. I appreciate you doing those little hobby sessions while we're talking.
Well, I'm glad to just not be building terrain anymore. I was building terrain earlier today. I'm over it.
Oh, I've still got so much. Hold up. Oh, look at all that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was building.
Look at all that wood. Oh, it's crazy. But
I don't know how well this will work because this is my computer's thing. But there's the stack down there.
Oh yeah, I see it. Popping it out. I might have to get a special order off you boys soon. By the way, a little bit of a Down Under 40K special. Yeah, really appreciate you coming on. Do you want to plug a little bit about what you guys do, a little bit how to get in touch with you? Obviously you are the premier Grey Knight player in Australia right now. If anyone wants to chat with you, are you on our Discord, Josh? You're on our Discord, aren't you?
I haven't joined your Discord yet.
You piece of shit! Oh my god! Can you please join our Discord, you scumbag?
Oh, all right. I guess I can.
Great. I've had him on 3 podcasts and he can't even create an account on Discord. I don't even. Do you have an account?
I'm on lots of Discord.
That you're a fucking. That's an insult. Stop it. Just stop talking. So from by the time we create the podcast, I will have harassed Josh to the point where he's on the Discord. So if you want to chat to Josh, come on our Discord, Down Under 40K Discord. And do you just want to plug a bit about what's happening in Adelaide, what you boys get up to?
Yeah, so I'm obviously one of the TOs for Uprising Adelaide. I think I mentioned that at the start of the cast. So we've got 140 play Super Major coming up in January next year, sorry. We've got about 10 tickets left. We're getting pretty close to sold out. So we'll start a wait list after that. We've got 3 small Road to Uprising tournaments coming up in October, November, December. Just single day RTTs. I guess if you're a diehard Grey Knights guy and you want to hear more about Grey Knights, I did go on a podcast called Noob Hammer on YouTube, and that should come out on Sunday.
Jesus Christ. Hasn't joined our Discord. Plugged another fucking podcast on our podcast. Are you trying to aggravate me, mate? Did you plug our podcast on their podcast?
Nah.
Fucking hell. All right, no, but for real, what was it again? Go again.
Noob Hammer.
Noob Hammer. I was so angry because I knew what you were going to tell me after the fact that I didn't actually hear what it said.
They didn't give me an opportunity to plug. I didn't even think.
I was fucking losing my mind, eh? Anyways,
I'll comment on it when it comes up on YouTube and just say if anyone wants to know and send them your way. How's that?
Just fuck off, Josh. You can't come back from this. No. So on Uprising, we've got a gang going over, don't we, Ben? An absolute gang.
Do. We've got an absolute crew going over now. It gets bigger every week, it feels like.
It does. And once everyone realises that it's on, we're probably going to get a romping Airbnb. I'm thinking 20. I think we've got, like, when you do the extended game, I think we're getting close to 15 blokes. So it's going to be an absolute session. We're going to go in early, Ben, because you're doing the golden mic. And so is Pigeon Pete. Are you guys going to stream the golden mic or what?
Yeah, we're hopeful to. It's sort of not, obviously, we're not in complete control of that because it's a third party. But my understanding is that Adam Caramelleri is hoping to do it, unless he can go to LVO, in which case he will go to LVO instead. So can't discredit him for that, I guess.
Well, that's all right.
I guess we'll have a backup.
Well, I'll just run the show. Does anyone want to see me get super pissed, and commentate on stuff I don't know about? Anyone interested in that? But I'll be there. I'll be there cheering in the chair. Don't laugh so hard, Ben. That's too bad. But yeah, we'll be there. I'll be cheering in the background. Ben's already got his call out.
Predictions for how you're going to go at the event? 2 and 6.
At the actual Uprising.
Yeah.
Get fucked, mate. I've never had a losing record at any event I've gone to, so I'm going for what?
There you go.
I'm going for a winning record.
That sounds good, bud.
Got to back yourself. You got to back yourself. Actually, on that, Josh, we all joke because you probably didn't listen to the last podcast because you're not even on a fucking Discord. But in the last podcast, I shared that I haven't won a competitive game in 2021, which is still true. I plan on changing that in 2022.
I lose a lot of my practice games, mate. I lose many games.
I just don't win, period. But we're going to change that. Work in progress. Anyways, thanks for coming on, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Congratulations.
Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, thank you.
The Grey Knight King. We're giving a bit of a... He's done very well.
I wonder, I'm probably not even close to the top Grey Knight player with one event, surely. That'd be
It doesn't matter. You just flex on him. Just flex. Just like if they didn't go to the Normal Blokes, what does it matter? What have you done for me lately? What have you done for me lately? Anyways, that's Josh. Thanks for coming on, mate, and behave yourself.
Thanks for having me, lads.
Yes, Josh.
Too easy. I actually don't know how to kick him off. I'm just gonna press a button here. I've got rid of him. There we go.
Yeah.
There you go. How you going, mate?
Good, mate. It's cracking.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Fun, wasn't it?
It was very fun. I've actually forgot to do a scene for just the two of us, so we're going to go with a little side bracket for now. I can probably fill it. I can probably fill it up with something. Actually, I don't know what I'd fill it up with, but that was great.
It was awesome.
It was awesome.
It was good. It was really good. Very jealous. Like as I said, but we Tow Truck and the Dice King and I were booked ourselves to go out there, so it's a real shame, you know. But like, great showing there from Josh. Like you said, like he wasn't expecting it going up there, so it was just a great run. And it's always nice to hear one of the friends of the podcast do so well at a GT. So well done.
And we've mentioned it before, but if you haven't listened to Normal Blokes, like if you listen to us, you've definitely listened to Normal Blokes. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
But they kind of have you listened to it?
Yeah, I listened to it. Yeah,
they fawn over him a little bit. I don't know if that's a bit of guiltiness from no one knowing who he is, but they definitely appreciated.
He's fantastic, Josh. Like I said, I played him when he played Tyranids down at Terracon earlier this year, and it was fantastic. So. I'm not surprised. I think it's also nice for those guys as well. Like they do a lot of events, and they haven't had too much of a lockdown issue. Like obviously they've had some, but they haven't had too much. So I think for the Queensland boys to have some heavy hitters from another state was really nice for them. You hear them mention that a few times, and I think like especially when you've got some good players coming there from there. Like they play a lot of events. I reckon a lot of them talk about how they played each other a few times and stuff like that. So I think it probably was really refreshing for them to have a new couple of generals up at the top tables. So that was really good. So credit to Adam and Josh for doing so well. So
what do we got? I'll just go through our comments, Ben. We got no favourites.
I look forward to this.
We got one from our man, Mr. Pig. Where's my shirt, Dale? We actually do have an update. Do you want to update everyone, Ben?
They're on their way. They're coming. They're just getting printed, and then they're going to send them off. So they're done. We did the final. It's been a bit of a journey. I'm not going to lie to you with the font sizes. Whoever thought that font sizes could have such a saga wrapped around them? But we've lived it. We've lived through it. I say we've lived it. I think Pete's mainly lived it. But we've definitely been looking on the emails. But we're at a place where they're coming. Excited.
Another one from Pig. Ponzi scheme. Yeah, he knows what's up.
You never know.
Let's just keep going with Pig. Hashtag, where's the shirt, Dale? And he's a big rig that is back. It's I think it's not big rig, it's big cat, mate. So you got to get that right.
There it is.
Well, I'm living my best.
Where that's come from, but it's already a thing.
Look,
so.
if we try to load this up on YouTube and it gets rejected, I would not be surprised. Let's put it that way. Josh has got a little comment on. See if I can freeze it. Can you read that, Ben?
Yeah.
Missed it.
Yeah, well, if you do slide into his DMs, I hope you finish with after you've sponged off the advice you can off him in the DMs. You can then go at the end, join the Discord, you grub.
You meant to read it out, mate.
It's your Discord too, so make sure you get him in there. I'm surprised. I can't believe he's not in there. I've talked to him on other Discords as well, funnily enough, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned to it.
I'll read the comment out because Ben seems to have forgot this is also coming out as a podcast. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me again. Shut up, Ben. I'm trying to read it. Thanks for having me again, lads, and thanks to everyone for listening. If you want to chat Grey Knights, feel free to slide into my DMs, or I might even join the Discord under duress. Get fucked, Josh. All right. No, we do appreciate him coming on. The rest of the... so this was meant before he left. Tell Josh he needs to select some dice colours so we can get some uprising dice made. So it sounds like Josh is the only reason the Dice King's not making some bulk cash. Come on, Josh. The Dice King's just had his third child, fourth child. I don't even know. He keeps pumping them out. Like, he's going to support it. In fairness, if my husband was as good looking as the Dice King, I'd be getting up the duff all the time too. So, like, it all makes sense. What are we going to touch on, Ben? A little bit of out of lockdown news. I don't think it's beyond us to say that we are keen to start running RTTs when we're able to run RTTs.
Sure. Just want to like play it out and see actually, because everyone. I feel like a lot of people have gone to a lot of assumptions that we're just going to be out when they forecasted we're going to be out. So let's just wait and actually just see when that looks closer, and then we'll start booking some dates and stuff like that. So
we're not getting ahead of ourselves, but it's our intention to do that as soon as we can do that. As soon as we can safely do that.
We're not on it. We just like to play it safe because I'm a bit sick of cancelling stuff as everyone's sick of having stuff cancelled. So. Let's just make sure we know we can do it, and then we can aim to chuck one on. So,
100%. What else are we going to touch on, mate? A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Well, we've just been doing a little bit of list diving myself, so I'm looking forward to stop learning about grey nights for the last 48 hours and start learning about start getting back into my book and start exploring. I've been touching on some TTS, but I'm not going to talk too much about it tonight. Me and Pete are going to do a little thing next week, I think, about it. If I can capture on a night that he's free. And then it might just be a segment that you'll hear in a couple of weeks or whatever, but we're definitely doing something. So, and honestly, it's worth just tuning in just to hear about me doing TTS. I guarantee you that's worth just, even if you don't play it and you don't believe in it, it's good to just come and listen to me, who is also someone who really has always said he'd never do it and has done it. And kind of hear my feedback on it. But that's all I'm going to say. I think people already know my feedback on it, but it would be better because I'll be able to put it in more of a contextual form.
I don't even know, mate. I'm looking forward to it. Also on the content, we're going to have one of the Wednesday boys on. I think later next week. To chat about going to tournaments, knowing you're probably not going to get the bickies.
He's bullied his way onto our screens, that guy.
Yeah. Bullied. Well, no, we asked for it. Ben Brown. I taught him everything he knows. Obviously, Ben about the TTS.
He did, literally, to teach me everything.
That's what I'm worried about. Two middle-aged men teaching each other.
I'm now a war turtle and not a squirtle now.
Oh,
just because I've got a little number pad mainly. I'm an elite gamer. Ben even told me, he said, "Are you an elite gamer now?"
That's fucked.
Because I brought a $20 wireless mouse, and he called me an elite gamer.
You've done well, mate. You've done well.
I've got a 13-inch laptop screen to look at TTS on. It's like a migraine waiting to happen by turn 4, and he's just sitting there with his massive curved screen in front of him, just living the dream, You're an elite gamer. It's like, no. Sitting on a kitchen chair with a pillow on it.
You're now the master. You're either going to have to talk to yourself for the next few minutes, or we're going to have to wrap it up, mate, because I'm fanging for a piss.
All right, well, I think that's about it. There's nothing else much to touch on. Thanks for coming on and joining us this evening. Ones who stuck through it, through the best and worst bits,
Well, yeah, a little bit of lag, but this was a bit of an introduction of the type of content we want to do moving forward. So we appreciate everyone that gives it a look and gives it a listen. Lots of hopefully positive news coming out of lockdown. We've got some actually really exciting announcements to make, I'd say, Ben.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to see everyone's getting bustling with lists and stuff again, like everyone's it's giving everyone a bit more effort on the Discord and stuff, so it's been good.
Yeah, right. All right, well, I think we'll wrap that up, and we'd like to say thanks to Josh coming on, and we're just going to leave you with the calm. Hooroo.
There are many facts in life that never change. The sun rises, the sun sets, the meta changes and evolves, and of course, the greatest of all truths, Magnus did nothing wrong. From the wisdom of the calm.